But later this afternoon, I will be participating in a travel leaders virtual conference and investing in my development. If you don't know who Travel Leaders is, they are the largest travel consortia or network. So if you don't mind, I will be spending my afternoon growing my mind and giving myself and profession a little self-love. I know this is earlier than our normal 2 o'clock session that we've been hosting all of our Facebook Lives. So thank you everyone who has a little update as far as what the schedule will look like for today. I'll be giving opening remarks. I'll be introducing our speaker, and as always, at the end of our session, we'll have a Q&A for everyone that will be joining us live. So if you have any questions about anything discussed or have any questions for our guest speaker, please feel free to use the comment box below, and we will get to them afterwards. And if you're already there, please let me know who is out there viewing us live. Give me a little shout out. Tell me where you're from. I love always to see who's watching and who's joining us today. And if you do know our speaker, have met him before, give a little nice hello to him and tell us what you know about him. But just to start, a little bit about us. If you are new or you are one of our valued passengers and continue to support us within the travel industry, a big thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. For those that I'm just meeting and we're just being introduced to each other, a little bit about myself and my agency. My name is Mariel Cabin, and I am the COO and owner of TravelWise International. I will be your moderator and host for today. To tell you a little bit about TravelWise, we have been in business since 1989 and have been helping our passengers visit uncharted destinations internationally to Europe, Asia, and the South Pacific, and even the exotics. Our favorite method of travel is by groups personally escorted by one of our own, as well as by ocean and river cruises. Our specialty, however, and many has known us for this, is going to the 7,461 islands of the Philippines. And for that reason, all month, we have been joining the celebration in promoting Filipino-American History Month by bringing on Filipino-American leaders who have been making a difference in our community. So every Wednesday, typically at 2 o'clock, we have been bringing people to our show, bringing people to TravelWise Talks to honor Filipino-American History Month. So with that, yay! It's Filipino History Month. It's October. And if you were with us last month, the U.S. Congress finally recognized that Filipino-American History Month would be celebrated in October. You want to know the trivia question to last week's show? It was in 2009. So big wins for us in the Filipino-American community. And we'll also be having another trivia question this today. So the Filipino-American history trivia for today is the Filipino-American National History Society, FANHS, was founded in 1982 and documents and promotes Filipino-American history through its archives, conferences, books, programs, films, arts, and more. This year's theme is in the history of Filipino-American activism. So very cool, very appropriate for the year 2020. But my trivia question for today is, in what U.S. city is the Filipino-American National History Society located? Is it 1, A, San Diego, California, 2, here in Washington, D.C., or Seattle, Washington, or finally, Houston, Texas? So if you know where the Filipino-American National Historical Society is located, please type it in the chat box below. I will be going over the answers at the end of our session. So is it San Diego, Washington, D.C., Seattle, Washington, or Houston, Texas? I would love to make this a learning opportunity for everyone who is joining us live or who's visiting us later on in the session. But to give a little introduction of who our guest speaker is, it was very timely that I did this. I introduced what the theme was for this year of Filipino-American activism. Now, the Filipino-American National History Society's theme surrounding Filipino-Americans in activism, I'm very proud and honored to bring to you all today a man that has come from very humble beginnings, but became a man who fights for justice and the voices that needs to be heard. He is the recipient of the AARP Asian American Pacific Islander Hero Award in 2018 for advocating for Filipino World War II veterans for his effort in advocating for veterans' rights. John Melgrito was on the forefront pushing for Congress to pass a bill in 2016 that would honor World War II vets by bestowing the Congressional Gold Medal. 22 living vets received that medal, and is working on educational programs that will include and be exhibited in the National Museum of American History. He is the Executive Secretary of the Filipino Veterans Recognition and Education Project, also known as PhilVetRep. After retiring 8 years ago from the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, the AFSCME, where he worked as a publication specialist, devoted most of his time as a volunteer for Meals on Wheels, youth mentor, news correspondent for various publications, and the editor of Manila Mail. He has a master's degree in journalism and public affairs from the American University. Born in the Philippines, he lives in Kensington, Maryland, with LV, his wife, for more than 50 years. They are proud grandparents of 2 young girls. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am very, very proud and honored to have with us today John Melgrito. I've known him, and my parents have known him. So it is very exciting to have him with us today. John, if I can invite you to the stage.
Thank you, Marielle. That's a very kind of you to introduce me the way you did. I appreciate your celebrating Filipino American History Month. I think this is a very, very important moment for us Filipinos. And I'm glad that you mentioned the Filipino American Historical National Society, because they're the ones who actually officially started this celebration, and we've been celebrating it every year. So thank you for making this an important occasion for us to observe.
Of course, of course. No, John, well, John, I wanted to know, did you guys see the slides at all?
The slides?
Yeah, did you see the slides? I'm not sure if they were shown. I thought it was being shown the whole time, but
you mean Filipino American History Month? Yeah, I saw the first slide.
You did see this first slide. That is very odd. And did you see the trivia question by chance?
Yeah, I saw the trivia question. Yes.
Oh, okay, great. And then did you see your your beautiful headshot photo?
I did.
All right. Then we are on track. I was a little nervous there. I'm not going to hide it, but we will go on with our program. And I just wanted to start, you are someone that is very well respected in the community, John. And as I mentioned, my parents know you, I know you, and everyone has many things to say. And I know this next question you might have a lot of things to say, but I'm going to ask you anyway. I want to start off the session by asking you, what does Philippine American History Month mean to you?
Since this year's theme is Filipino American activism, I just want to share that one of the heroes that I always like to share when talking about Filipino American History Month is the story of Larry Itliong, who headed the United Farm Workers along with Cesar Chavez in 1965, and they led the Delano Grape Strike. Not very many people know about this history, and I encourage our community, especially young people, to learn more about Larry Itliong and the Manongs in the 1920s, to the 1960s, because they really helped build the American labor movement. Their activism, fighting for better wages for their families, and really going on strike. That was a very historic moment, not just in the Filipino community, but in American labor movement. So when I think about Philippine American History Month, I think about heroes like Larry Itliong, and there are many more manongs that I hope our students, our young people, our community will strive to really study because knowing history is very empowering,
Yeah.
and that inspires the activism that I hope other young people will also instill in themselves as we continue to move forward. So thank you for asking me that question.
What what is something that you can ask from the younger generation now to be part of this movement? What can the youth do at this very moment to be part of this movement?
No, I want our young people to really be engaged with the issues. For instance, over the last year, because of the Black Lives Matter movement,
Mhm.
the fight for racial justice. This is something that I think, especially Filipinos who come from the Philippines with that colonial legacy, we have this sense that African Americans are inferior, and yet we have a lot in common with them in their struggle for equity and justice and equality. So I like our young people, and I'm actually glad to see many of them participate in the demonstrations over the last few months. And this is very encouraging, and I hope that they will continue to be engaged, continue to study history, and to continue to spread, the sense of activism, because we have a lot in common with them, and this is a struggle that I hope we will continue to fight together.
And many people don't know Filipino American history and what our involvement is has been through the decades, and our search for equality and equal rights. And not many people know about that history. So I think just knowing how active and how vocal some of the younger people have been throughout these demonstrations and putting out what has happened in the past and our struggles as well and how we feel very similar into that respect, has raised a lot of questions even if they haven't known before. Just seeing them and seeing the movement, seeing what they're doing, it starts drawing questions and definitely puts this into conversation, for further research into what's our history.
Yeah, I just want to mention that in 1965, when Dr. Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement, it also led to immigration reform,
Yeah.
which allowed many more Filipinos, especially professionals, students, nurses, doctors, to come to this country. That's when equal employment opportunity and affirmative action became possible. So Filipinos need to understand that these benefits that we're enjoying today
Yeah.
wouldn't have been possible had it been for Dr. Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement of the 1960s that really fought for voting rights, for civil rights, all the way to veterans' rights, which we are now also waging. So, yeah, that's a important part of history that we should always keep in mind.
Thank you, Uncle, for laying that down on us and making a call to action to every first generation, second generation Filipino American out there to ask questions and
Mhm.
learn about our history and learn about our involvement through the decades. Because without really knowing our history, we don't really know what our identity is, and to be able to speak about that for the future generations to come.
That is a good slogan. Know thy history, know thyself. I'm glad you mentioned that.
All right, Uncle. So I brought you here to tell us a little bit more about Manila Mail. It's been a long-standing publication that has been serving the DMV area and probably further reaches. But I've known it all the time because my mom would always tell me to pick it up when I went to a sari-sari store and Oriental store or any Filipino carry-out. I would always pick this up for my parents. And as I grew older, I learned more about it, and I also try to get involved. And I want you to maybe tell us what the objectives is for Manila Mail publication.
Be glad to. Manila Mail was founded more than almost 30 years ago by Bert Alfaro, and I really salute him for his pioneering spirit, for being a journalist, for starting a newspaper that has over the years been a very valuable vehicle, not just to inform our community about news from the Philippines, but also news from here, how our community has progressed over the years, and how we have been engaged in the various critical issues that affect us. And this publication has continued, and I think this is the only print publication in the East Coast
Hmm.
that continues to provide this kind of informative vehicle, entertainment, promoting civic engagement. So I'm really proud to be the editor in chief, having been part of this staff. And by the way, our most of the staff are volunteers. None of us are paid. So this is a labor of love, right?
A true labor of love.
True labor of love. And I thank the volunteers who are writers, columnists, feature writers, and of course, our advertisers. And, TravelWise, of course, is one of those that have been supportive of Manila Mail over the years. You have a column now that's been helpful in providing information about travel. So, yeah, so I'm very proud of my association with Manila Mail.
I mean, I think that speaks a lot about the objectives and like you said, the labor of love. Just the fact that it's been going on for over 30 years,
Yep.
and they're all volunteers. That means they must really love what they're doing.
Yes, absolutely. And that passion to share stories. And as we go through these slides, I will point out some of the very compelling and really interesting human interest stories that our community over the years, in terms of their struggles, their triumphs, their efforts to really build community, has been highlighted in this publication.
All right. Do you want to jump into
Yes,
to some of
why don't we do that, and I'll talk through the slides.
All right.
Now, the first slide that you will see is a picture of the Manila Mail volunteer staff. This was taken during our 28th anniversary celebration 2 years ago. And I'm sure that some of your viewers, I'm sure, have attended this anniversary. And this is a finale serenade that we sang for the guests. And these are some of the volunteers, as I said, that have been writing and helping make this publication a successful one over the years. Next. Now, the next slides, you will see some of the cover stories. So this is a story about the Filipino veterans, Philippine World War II veterans. I'm sure many of you by now have learned that after 72 years, our Filipino World War II veterans were finally recognized with the Congressional Gold Medal, which is the highest civilian honor that the U.S. Congress bestowed on our Filipino veterans. And I'm very proud to be associated with the Filipino Veterans Recognition and Education Network and the project that we're doing to educate our community about their history and their courageous and valiant struggle to protect and defend democracy and freedom. Now, the next slide is another cover story that we are proud to share. And this is one of the recent cover stories about Filipino Americans being engaged in the Black Lives Matter movement. And as I said earlier, the activism in our community, especially among students, our young people, is really inspiring to see them engage and go attend protest actions and demonstrations, and also to encourage their peers to learn more about the history of the African Americans and how we have in common with their plight today. Yeah, the next one is another cover story that we put out. And this is when, the gun violence. Yeah, go to the next slide, Mariel. Yeah, this one is about gun violence. And I'm really proud to see high school students like Sydney Avelino from Oxon Hill and Sheila Martinez from Bethesda, Maryland, who were among the high school students who really led their classmates in protest actions against gun violence. And again, this is another encouraging sign that our young people are actively engaged in those issues that really, really affect them. Next, please. Now, this is about community volunteers, and I'm proud to say that in our community we have volunteers who really give their time, to charity, to humanitarian actions, uh, feeding the hungry, serving the poor, participating in Meals on Wheels. So this is a celebration of the many, many volunteers in our community who really take their time, to go out and help, lend a helping hand, and provide assistance to those who are in need in our community. The next one is another story that we have focused on. And I love this story because coming to America is a story that we all have. And I was really thrilled to see over about 20 stories from members of our community who shared their struggle coming to America, how they were able to overcome adversity, how they were able to succeed, provide for their families. And we will continue to feature this series. So I encourage our readers, our viewers, if you have a story to share about your coming to America, send them to Manila Mail, because we'll be more than happy to share that and publish that so that our readers will know about your own story. Next. So we have more stories to share, and this next cover story is about women, in celebration of Filipino women. And I know some of you know some of this, I'm sure. These are women who have excelled in various professions. They are nurses, they are doctors, they are chefs, they are entrepreneurs, they are youth leaders. So every March, which is Women's History Month, we try to feature as many of these leaders, these women leaders, because they are inspiring models. And I know that you have mothers and aunts and lolas who you're very proud of. And this is an opportunity to say, we love you and we celebrate you and we're very proud of you. Yeah, the next slide is another cover story that we are focusing on. And this is love in the time of Trump, meaning love in the time of the present condition that we are having now. And these are love stories. And if you haven't read this issue, I hope that you're able to find one. If you don't have a copy, let me know. But these, again, are various individuals in the community who took time to share, stories about what makes them, share their affection, what are their passions that drive them to relate to other people in ways that make their lives, meaningful. So this is an issue that I really enjoyed putting together. Now we have more stories. Next, please. So we could just scroll through the others, Marielle. So this is the recent one. If you haven't seen the recent one, this is a feature story on our Filipino-American restaurants. Those of you who have been, going to the various restaurants in our community, I hope that you will continue to support them because, as you know, they are struggling. They are having a difficult time. And I hope that you will, visit them, do a carry-out order, a delivery. They would appreciate that from you. Next. And this is a story about the election. So we featured various community leaders. This is a story about our business. The PACC has a regular column. And those of you who are interested in learning about estate planning, for instance, we have a regular column that features all the issues relating to business and to your own personal plans. Retirement, for instance. This is a column that hopefully will be informative and helpful to you. Next. So let's just scroll through the rest ones quickly, Marielle. Now this is Lauren Pabico. She's a high school student from Manassas, Virginia. This is Marielle, who has a column, and I'll go back to Lauren. This is an inspiring story of a high school student who used her baking skills to help spread the word about social justice. So, Lauren, thank you very much for sharing the inspiring story. The next slide is a column by Marielle, and this is a regular column that we appreciate very much because it gives very helpful travel tips as well as other issues related to your leisure time. And Marielle, I'm looking forward to joining one of those tours and visit one of those 1,700 islands in the Philippines. So thank you for that.
We'll be looking forward to you too, Uncle, to come and join
Yes.
us. I mean, Uncle, I mean, like, I think we spent about a good five minutes on these head stories, and I mean, I'm already like, man, I got to go back on some of these Manila Mail
Sure.
publications and read up on these stories because some of these I'm really interested in. And just getting that synopsis that you gave us within this 5 minutes, I'm already like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't read that one on my own. But I mean, are from these stories, Uncle? I mean, is there one in particular that really stands out? Um, I would say even during this time. I mean, right now during this crisis that we're all just trying to live with. Is
Mhm.
there a story that you receive that really stands out as something that everyone should go back and read for themselves?
Well, because of the pandemic, the story about our frontliners have been very inspiring. As you know, they are in the front lines, they risk their lives to save lives. And our nurses in our community, especially the Philippine Nurses Association of Washington, D.C., they have a lot of health professionals out there. So we feature their story. Yeah, this is one of them. We feature their story because I think it's important for our community to not only to be aware of of the risks they're taking, but their complete dedication. This is a very thankless job. Sometimes they don't have the right equipment, they don't have PPEs, and yet they persevere and they go into the hospitals, the wards, knowing that they're always constantly in harm's way. So this is one of the inspiring stories, and I'm very appreciative, and I commend the Filipino Nurses Association and all the other healthcare workers, the professionals who are really giving their time and are devoting much of their energy and commitment to making sure that we fight this pandemic together and that we are able to ensure that people are safe and that they are healthy and that they are well. So yes, this is one of the stories that I really love.
All right. Well, I mean, thank you, Uncle, because that, I mean, definitely, I gave a shout out last week, but I can't say it enough about to all the frontliners that are battling this crisis. Like, we have no idea on the other side what they see every single day, and with the media maybe
Mhm.
speaking it a certain way, but not being on the forefront, not seeing it for yourselves. How much this virus has really affected so many people directly or indirectly. So just like John said, all of the all of those that are frontliners in the medical field that are battling this virus. My highest respect goes out to all of you that are saving lives every single day.
Now let me hasten to add, Marielle, that there are also people like Joyce Puno, who has this lab sweatshop who make face masks. By the way, my wife LV is also sewing face masks. So I also want to lift and thank the many many volunteers who are using their sewing machines to make face masks and donate them not only to frontliners but also to homeless shelters. Right?
Yes.
This is very inspiring, and we also have stories about those people who have been making face masks to contribute and donate to charity.
Yeah. It's amazing to see, despite everything that has been going on, like these stories of hope and these stories of good people out there. And for me as a Filipino American, when I see it's someone that I know, or it's
Yeah.
someone of my color, or someone that also shares the same values as me, it's like I get it. My Lola back in the day was a seamstress too, and so I'm like, oh,
Oh,
I know why she's sewing masks. She was probably a seamstress back in the old days, or
no,
like passed on this this trait to do it as a young girl, and was passed down probably when they got here to America. And you see parts of the lineage that came from Philippines, and it shows, it shines through, definitely.
Now, you mentioned our Filipino values, and that's exactly what has been displayed with such admirable way. The Filipino value of pakikipagkapwa. Do you know what that means, Mariel? Pakikipagkapwa. Kap-
No, but I
Kapwa.
think I need a lesson on it.
Yeah, kapwa means the other person that I relate to. Kapwa means kasama, or my friend, or my comrade. So we have this very meaningful term called pakikipagkapwa, meaning in relation to the other person, doing something good to the other person, because our life means so much more if we relate to somebody else, right? We're not just doing it on our own. Yung kanya-kanya, the kanya-kanya, right? So this is really what bayanihan means, right? That's another term that we would like to use, bayanihan, where the whole community comes together, and the more, just like the walisting thing, the broom walisting thing. If we bind them together, we're stronger. And I think this is what's been demonstrated during the pandemic. Nurses, health professionals, face mask wearers. I mean, everybody's coming together to help somebody else. And I think that's something that we can be very proud of as a value in our community.
Absolutely. Now, Uncle, just so I know, like, who are your readers, and how do you necessarily reach them? Because I mentioned earlier that I used to always pick up an issue whenever I used to pick one up for my parents. But who are your readers now, and how do you reach them, and who would you like to be your readers in the future?
Our readers are primarily the Filipino-American community in the DMV area.
Mhm.
We circulate probably about 10,000 copies every quarter, because we have gone quarterly now with the print publication. But the pass on readership, is probably about 30,000. So we're serving, the whole DMV community, senior citizens especially. They're the ones who really like the newspaper because they want to feel it. They're not very comfortable with reading news on the screen, right? Unlike the millennials, you open your cell phone and you can read the news. But our senior citizens, my age, my contemporaries, they're the ones who really love Manila Mail. They want to feel the paper, they want to flip through the pages, they want to see their pictures, right? And of course, we have an online publication, which is updated daily, which is more, I guess, it caters more to the millennials, those who are proficient with social media, those have Facebook. But we try to also serve policymakers in Washington, because we're based in the DC area, the
Yeah.
nation's capital. We distribute it to congressional staff. That way they know what the issues are in the community, policymakers, nonprofit organizations, so that they know that our community is also not just isolating itself from the rest of the mainstream, but we're also involved in the issues that other communities are involved with.
Yeah, that's great. I am a millennial, but I definitely like the newspaper feel, and I like to open it up and get the one that's not like folded in the middle, but like, and smell it for the first time. There's nothing like a good newspaper, and you're the first one to touch it.
Yeah, and again, because the paper is distributed mainly in stores, restaurants and grocery stores, Filipino grocery stores in the area. If there are readers or viewers who want to receive a copy and want to subscribe to the Manila Mail because they don't have access to it, at the end of this slide, there's an email, my email, and they can just email that address and say, I want to subscribe to Manila Mail. I mean, the minimal cost is just to cover postage, right?
I mean,
So
last.
yeah, so write a letter to the editor at manilamail.us, right? And just say, I want to receive a copy of the Manila Mail, and I will definitely make sure that you get a copy. And if you want to advertise, of course, that's the email address to send it to, songbook@yahoo.com. And if you want to call me because you have a tip, you have a story, you have a you want to pitch an idea, you want to highlight somebody to be featured, yeah, give me a call, and I'll be delighted to chat with you and converse with you because Manila Mail likes to be the pulse of the community, and the more we hear from our viewers and readers, the better it is in terms of ensuring that we're able to publish the kind of stories that you want us to put in this publication. So, yeah, those are our contact information.
No, that's great, Uncle, to hear. I was actually just about to ask that. I mentioned that I used to pick up an issue every time I went to the um, Filipino stores or the
Mhm.
Filipino restaurants. And I was wondering, like, how would the older generation pick up their issue if right now they can't necessarily go out to the store, or they're really trying to take precautions, social distance, and just really protect themselves. And it's very enlightening to hear that Manila Mail has found other ways to reach out to their readers
Mhm.
that are in quarantine and they can't actually make it to the store. So it's good to hear that there is a mail-in process that
Right.
is
I'm,
available.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't know whether you know Vanji Paredes. She is 104 years old,
Wow.
104 years old, and she loves to read Manila Mail. Imagine that. She's 104 years old. She's still able to flip through the pages, and she says, John, I want to make sure I received the Manila Mail. And I got her address in a nursing home, and I
Oh,
send her a copy every issue. So yes, anybody, you don't have to be, disabled or in anybody who's interested in getting a copy. We'll be more than happy to send and mail you a copy. So yeah, let your viewers know that this is possible to send to them.
no, no, John, was this a new offer since the pandemic, or was this always offered to all of your readers?
Well, so much more now because, as you said, they're not able to go to grocery stores to get a copy. So we got more requests now than before, and I'm really delighted. I'm just more than happy to make sure that they get a copy in the mail.
No, Jody Reyes says, "Wow, 104, still reading newspaper. That's excellent." No, so I mean that leads me to another question: is there any other changes that has happened with Manila Mail to reach out to your viewers since the crisis happened back in March? We know
Yeah.
you can reach out by mailing an actual copy of the issue to your readers, but is there anything else that Manila Mail has done throughout the crisis?
Well, before the crisis, of course, we transitioned to online. We used to come out every 2 weeks, and unfortunately, our advertising revenues are not as sufficient to maintain a biweekly publication, but still come out every quarter. So that's the biggest change is the transition to online almost 2 years ago now. But of course, during COVID, because of the accessibility issues, we try to make it available through the mail. But we also have volunteers, who have offered, to distribute copies of Manila Mail, like the restaurants, the events, for instance, the family gatherings. So we try to adjust as best as we can to make sure that the community is still able to access what we have to offer and continue to also get feedback, from the community. So, yes, we're like everybody else. We are adjusting and doing our best to adapt to these very difficult times.
I mean, I think I think the word pivot, navigate, change has been
Mhm.
the number one used word throughout all the webinars and development classes, and and it's enlightening to hear that change is still happening, and that
Right.
as old as the publication that Manila Mail is, that there is still the viewers are still changing and reaching out to your readers and finding ways to reach out. Auntie LV, is that you?
Yes. Say hello to Mariel. Hello to Mariel.
I don't know her.
Oh.
Travel Rice. She's this is Offie Adriano's daughter. Offie Adriano from Travel Wise.
Oh,
She's having some senior lapses. But we use Travel
No.
Wise before to travel.
That's
As you know,
great,
Shima.
Uncle.
He knows your
That
mom very well.
like I said,
Now, has your mom
my
retired?
mom and dad.
Has she retired?
Partially. She's half retired, half in the business. You know, when it comes to all the good things, she's still in the business, but retired when it comes to work.
Oh, I remember your mom very well. We used to, meet in social functions, in church events. So I just love your mom. She's a pleasant, person to be with, and I'm always grateful that we've been able to, relate in many ways, socially, as well as in business, trying to get her assistance in our travel plans. So give my love to your mom.
She does the same. When I told her I was doing this Facebook Live with you, she told me, "Oh, how do I watch?" But please tell them we said hi and we send our warmest regards.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Um, but Ango, I mean, I guess one of my questions in regards to Manila Mail is what are some of the accomplishments that you would like to highlight about Manila Mail in the past? I know we went over some of the major headlines and stories within our community, but what are some of the accomplishments that you would like to highlight about Manila Mail that has happened in the past, or
Mhm.
maybe in this year alone?
Well, I would mention at least three of them.
Okay.
The latest one is we sponsored about 2 weeks ago a debate. Manila Mail sponsored a debate between Republican and Democratic supporters. So this is the first time ever that Manila Mail was able to host a lively conversation between supporters of both parties. That was very helpful in informing our community about the election issues. That was a very thoughtful exchange of ideas, and hopefully we can continue to institutionalize this kind of town hall uh, kind of conversation, and possibly not just on the elections, but maybe on other issues as well. The second is that I'm so proud to be able to recruit writers from our community, right? Writers who are able to set aside their time to contribute their stories, their columns, their thought ideas, especially young people. I'm particularly encouraging young people to
Mhm.
write. We don't have too many Filipino writers, and if we have to preserve our memories, our stories, and how we as a community have been able to, overcome adversity, how to succeed in business, how to move forward in our political aspirations, how to run for public office. I think we need those kinds of writers because they not only educate, but they also inspire the kind of engagement that requires that kind of commitment. So that's the second one is we've been able to accomplish recruitment of especially young writers to be
Mhm.
part of this publication. And the third one, of course, is just covering the major issues. We showed some of the cover stories coming to America, the volunteers, the women, being able to highlight, these major stories in our community, the Filipino veterans. I think that's an accomplishment that Manila Mail will always continue to be proud of because we feel that we have not only created awareness in the community about especially the Filipino veterans, but we'll also encourage engagement and commitment and participation. And that's what community building is. We need to enrich and engage and inform and participate so that it eventually cultivates that sense of volunteerism, that sense of solidarity, and a
Yeah.
stronger relationship among members of our community.
Exactly. And then, we didn't get to this. I mean, I can flash the screen as I also love what Manila Mail has been doing in regards to raising awareness of our voices and amplifying it through our vote and through the census. And, I'm just going to share the screen. This is something that has happened in the third quarter issue
Right.
um, on the Capital Region Voter Guide. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just show it so that everyone can.
Yes. Yeah. This is a public service ad that we put out because, as you know, as elections are approaching, and 3 weeks away from now, and in fact, mail-in voting has started. Uh, so this is simply to inform our community, where to vote, how to vote, what places to go to if you want to cast your ballot in a polling place, what websites, to log on if you need more information about mail-in ballots, for instance, or early voting. And this covers, of course, the regulations that guide our voters in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So we hope that this kind of public service will not only encourage our community to vote, but also to make this a habit. We want this to be a habit, not just once in a while, but always constantly. Also in local elections. So this is not just for the national elections. This is also for state as well as local. There are elections for board members, for instance, for city councils. This is really what civic engagement is all about: is to commit yourself to participate as a citizen.
Thank you, Uncle. Oops, am I on
Yeah,
here as well?
and that's
Thank
that's also another ad for voter registration. So
you.
I know
Yeah.
that there's still people who probably have not registered to vote, and we just want to make sure that they have all the necessary information. Uh, if they are intending to vote this year.
Yeah, I think that's a better screen. And I just want to flash through some of the ones that the
Hmm.
information that you put on here about how to get involved.
This one is about the census.
Mhm.
Now, I hope that everybody, and this is a census that everyone, regardless of citizenship, you don't have to be a citizen. So long as you're here in the country,
Yep.
whether you're visiting or not, you are counted, and we want our community to be counted because this means a lot in terms of resources that will benefit our community later on. So this happens once every 10 years. So it's not too late. I think you have until the end of October to complete the census form.
All right. The call to action to everyone who's watching right now is to get out there and make sure your vote is counted, and to make sure that you are part of the census.
Right.
Um, as Uncle has said, that it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not, just visiting, it does amplify our voices in the community as one. And PACC organizations like NAFA, Manila Mail, all we're trying to do is to unite all of our Filipino-American voices into one, so that our voices, our concerns, the issues that we face can be heard as one. If we bring them all together and with one voice we say what we need to, it can be heard a lot clearly than many of us separated into smaller voices.
By the way, Marielle, this public service websites like the census and voter education, they also provide language assistance. I know that most Filipinos speak English, but if you have difficulty, for instance, in filling out the form, we have Tagalog interpreters, and in fact, I'm one of them. I'm on a online, what they call hotline. So if you call this website and you have a question about the census or about voter education, you might likely end up talking to me, and I'll talk to you in Tagalog and guide you and
Well,
guide
that's
you.
good to know. At least it'll be a familiar voice that we've all heard today.
Yeah, in fact, I just helped somebody yesterday, a Tagalog speaker who's difficulty speaking English, and she just wanted to know how to get a mail-in ballot. So I navigated, helped her navigate the website. She was able to fill out the form requesting a mail-in ballot, and she's on her way to go. So yes, we make it easy for voters, for citizens, to exercise their right to vote. So don't hesitate to call these hotlines if you need help.
No, that's great, Uncle. Um, I think we're getting a little short on time. I don't see that there are any questions coming in. So I do just want to put on here the information on how to reach Manila Mail if you would like to send in a submission, any advertising, or if you would like a Manila Mail issue to be sent to your house,
Hmm.
this is the information. I'm going to pop it up on the big screen one more time. And Uncle, I guess if you had any final words to our viewers, anything you want to say to them, I'm going to put this on the big screen and you can have the stage for a few seconds.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank you, Marielle, for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, especially in celebration of Filipino-American History Month. This is one way of highlighting the many good things we do to make a difference. And certainly you have done that, not only through travel-wise, but also your community service as a member of PACC and other organizations. So hopefully this information about Manila Mail will not only encourage people in the community to not only read Manila Mail, but also to contribute. Uh, and I welcome any articles that you will send, any personal stories, weddings, anniversaries, love stories, education, successful adventures, thrilling travel experiences, you name it. We will publish your story. So I thank you, Mariel, for giving a shout out for Manila Mail, and I hope that I will hear from our viewers as well, because we need feedback. We need also their constructive criticisms, suggestions, and whatever they feel can improve Manila Mail's mission of building community. So thank you, Mariel.
Thank you so much, Uncle. And I really appreciate this time that you've spent with us. I mean, I think I have the highest respect for you and everything that you stand for and have done throughout your lifetime. My parents definitely have also told me how much I should respect you as well because of everything they know about their lifetime of knowing you. So thank you for spending this hour and giving us an overview about the things going on in the Filipino-American community and the stories that have been shared in the past and just throughout this crisis, because I think it's really important for us to continue to be storytellers of
Right.
our own history. Because if we don't tell the stories of our own community, then our voices and our efforts and our identity here in the U.S. can be forgotten. And as a daughter of a retired Navy, your advocacy work that honored veterans is really goes deep in my heart because it's a great example of the stories that we need to tell within our community. The stories of the frontline workers is our story. The stories of the small businesses and how they've been navigating through the changes. The story of our youth and how active they have been in making their voices heard is our story to tell. And I think through the help of Manila Mail as a publication, through your example, I think we have a good history and we have a good future ahead of us as long as we continue to be storytellers of our own history.
Marielle, the next cover story is about mothers. And remember, I asked you to share
Yeah,
your story about being a young new mother. So I look forward to your story about how you're able to nurture this beautiful baby whom I'm yet to meet, and hopefully one of these days I'll have the honor of holding
absolutely.
this baby.
Absolutely. He's a bit heavy now, Uncle. So you might need to put something on your lower back because he's kind of heavy.
Oh, just seeing your baby smile and laugh, and just being in her presence, I think that would mean a lot, because I miss my granddaughters when they were their age. They're now 8 and 13. I wish they didn't grow any older than 2, right? So enjoy them when they're toddlers, because that's one of the best times as a mother, as well as a grandpa. Is to enjoy those young years.
Thank you. I will be a contributor, Uncle, because I owed you from last year, and I definitely have a lot of stories to tell as a new mother going through this
Great,
crisis. So
wonderful,
thank
wonderful.
you, Uncle. Thank you again for joining us for this issue, and I look forward to working with you again. All right, Uncle.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone that has been joining us. I hope that the stories that you've heard from John in regards to Manila Mail, all of his advocacy work is truly inspiring. These are the stories that we would like to tell our viewers and to celebrate Filipino American History Month. And I just wanted to make sure I don't forget. I wanted to make sure I fulfilled my promise of revealing the answers to our trivia question. So if you don't know where the Filipino American National History Society is located and in what city, I will tell you now. It is, drum roll please, Seattle, Washington. So if you didn't know that, because I didn't know that before this month, that it is in Seattle, Washington. It's a if you want to look them up, they have a lot of information, documents. I'm on there almost every week now, just reading about the news stories and events that they have going on. Um, but that is where they are located in Seattle, Washington. And if you like events, oops, let me go back. Sorry about that. Um, I'm so sorry, my slides are jumping. Um, if you liked what you've heard today, we have another lineup for the rest of this month honoring Filipino American history. Starting with next week, we will have Philippine Airlines, the Filipino carrier of our country, and how they have been dealing with the crisis. Travel, as we know, has been impacted very deeply, and we would like to hear what's going on with Philippine Airlines as the only carrier that has nonstop flights from the US to Manila, what they have been doing, the new travel requirements that they're requiring for boarding. I think a lot of our viewers will definitely benefit about hearing from the airlines directly. And at the end of the month, to wrap up Filipino American History Month, we will be having a special guest from TOFA. And if you don't know what TOFA stands for, it is the Outstanding Filipinos in America Award Ceremony. They will be joining us on Wednesday, October 28th at 2 p.m. So please stay tuned for that. And in November, we are still going to continue these Facebook Live talks. We'll be having Cathay Pacific as one of the major airlines that were first to be impacted by the virus and the closing of borders. They were one of the airlines that had many flights coming in and out of here, Washington and the US, and had layovers in mainland China and Hong Kong. And hearing what their story is and how now they have reopened Hong Kong for Philippine Embassy General Consul, who will be joining us to give us the inside scoop about travel to the Philippines. What are the latest restrictions? What are the travel documents that they're processing? And if there's any news about inbound travel to the Philippines for US passport holders. So definitely, if you would like to be reminded about these upcoming events, you can join us on our mailing list by Facebook messaging us your email on saying add me, and we will add you to our weekly email, just weekly, don't worry, weekly email list where you'll get reminders of all of the upcoming events. You can also check back on our Facebook page every Wednesday at 2 p.m. You can also sign up for our Eventbrite where you can get email reminders as well, or you can just give us a call. Our agents are working still Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Our number is 301-248-8898. They can give you a call. They can answer any of your travel questions that you may have, or just give you a reminder as soon as travel restrictions lift to the Philippines. Also, if you're watching us live on your YouTube page, please hit the subscribe button. This will really help us out to be able to deliver more videos, more content for you guys. And if you're watching us live or you're watching us later on, thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you next Wednesday. Thank you, and have a great rest of your week.